All right, so welcome to the Chamber Music America 2023 Artistic Projects Program Application Workshop. The application deadline is Thursday, October 13th, 2022, 11:59 p.m. So we give you the full day to submit. It's also useful for those of us that have any sort of work. We don't have to worry about a 5 p.m. deadline. We can work through the small hours of the night, right, and get the work done, get the applications out. The notifications for that will happen in December of 2022, and we'll provide you with some more details about what December shapes out to look like at the end of this particular presentation. The grants through this program are made and funded through the generosity of the Howard Gilman Foundation. So about artistic projects, Chamber of Music America's Artistic Projects offers grant opportunities for small ensembles and presenters, specifically with operating budgets under $250,000. And the focus is bringing creative ideas to completion and presenting them to audiences anywhere in the 5 boroughs in New York City. Specifically for CMA's definition of chamber music, we define chamber music as music for small ensembles that are between 2 and 10 musicians, with 1 musician per part, generally without a conductor. This encompasses contemporary and traditional jazz, as well as classical and world genres. For this particular grant of artistic projects, the grant funds small ensemble projects that may include performances, recordings, new compositions, and residencies. And if the proposed project is a collaboration involving other artistic disciplines or genres, it must be a work that centers the ensemble that's applying. All activities must take place within the 5 boroughs of New York City between January 1st, 2023 and December 31st, 2023. And applicants and their primary collaborators, if applicable, so that's presenters, ensembles, composers, may be part of only 1 artistic project's application per grant period. This is CMA's Statement of Commitment to Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity. So CMA's Board of Directors has made a diversity, inclusion, and equity statement that primarily focuses on the organization's work and the adoption of the acronym ALANA, African/Black, Latinx, Asian/South Asian, Arab/Middle Eastern, and Native American, for the use of its equity focus. And you can read the full statement of commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equity on the website. So starting off with our eligibility, applications may be submitted by the ensembles or presenting orgs. You must have no overdue reports or financial obligations to CMA. Additionally, for this particular grant, you must not be a current grantee of the Howard Gilman Foundation, and you need to be based in one of the 5 boroughs of New York City. Specifically for the ensemble eligibility, an ensemble is eligible if they have a minimum of 1 member of the ensemble who's a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, and they're based in one of the 5 boroughs in New York City. You need to fall within that range of 2 to 10 professional musicians, including your guest musicians. Student groups are not eligible. Soloists with accompanists are not eligible, but you may perform any style of small ensemble music encompassing contemporary and traditional jazz, as I mentioned before, the classical and the world genres, and that operating budget must be below $250,000 for your annual operating budget. The ensemble grantee who is applying needs to provide that proof of a New York City domicile/residence as well. Regarding the presenter eligibility, the presenter must be a 501c3 organization. They may present 1 ensemble. They may present any style of small ensemble music. And again, they must have an annual operating budget under $250,000. They must apply with an ensemble whose annual budget is also under $250,000, and that's based in one of the 5 boroughs of New York. And again, right, the ensemble 2 to 10 musicians, including that guest musician. And again, the ensemble may only appear on one presenter's application. And for the presenter grantees, rather than provide that proof of residence, you would provide proof of a New York City-based venue. So in terms of eligibility, CMA can't consider the following applications. So applications from current New Jazz Works or classical commissioning grantees, from ensembles or presenters who are requesting funding for capacity building, private or fundraising events, arts education, general operating support, although administrative expenses that are specific to this project can be considered overall within the project budget because we understand that's how you get the work done. Also, you can't request fees to student musicians, faculty, or administrative staff salaries. No requesting of funds for classes or workshops for music students, and no requesting through more than one application for the same ensemble or presenter. The grant funds are designed for specifically grants ranging from $7,500 to $20,000 per grant, and the program will fund 100% of eligible expenses. No matching funds are required. The eligible expenses include the ensemble and guest artist fees, ground transportation and cartage fees for the ensemble or guest artists, along with their instruments, the concert or streaming production expenses, recording studio and sound engineer fees, equipment rental, rehearsal performance space rental, and then marketing and advertising that's specific to the project. Grant funds also require that there's check-ins with CMA staff. So those can be phone calls, emails that you'll check in with us throughout the process of the grant cycle. The CMA membership is a complimentary that exists for the duration of the grant period. So in the 2023 year, those folks who are funded would be complimentary members for that year. The written application, the description of the project for which you are applying is what we'd be looking for within there, and would be one of the main questions. Also, the reasons for why the project's important at this particular time, how you expect the project to contribute to your growth as an ensemble or as an organization if you're coming in as a presenter, the extent to which the project will increase your ability to reach your target audiences for your work, and then the evidence of capacity to carry out the project, including those potential dates, appropriate budget, community and or presenting partners. So really the overall for the written application is looking for impact and how impact is being made either to you and your audiences, to you as an organization or ensemble, or to the artistry of your work as you're presenting the project. The ensemble audio, so we require 2 ensemble audio samples. They must be uploaded to the online application. There's a section for that. The samples should be up to 5 minutes each, and they feature works for the 2 to 10 musicians. And then finally, the sample that you choose should demonstrate the ensemble's performance level, and it must feature either the full ensemble or at least 50% of its musicians. If there's contrasting works, you would want to include those. Soloistic works are not recommended. And for those of you who were at yesterday's presentation, this sounds familiar because it's common across our grant lines. A duo must submit works with both partners, and only MP3 and or M4A file types are accepted. Submittable actually won't let you submit a different file type. It would have to be saved in one of those 2 file types in order to be uploaded. And finally, the samples don't need to be of studio quality, but they should be clear and represent your performance within the past 2 years. Regarding your application, you'll want to create a submittable account or log into your existing account. You can type directly into the application form. Um, I would recommend that you do the second and draft your application in an offline document so that you have a working copy and then copy your final responses into the online application. It's just good to have it as backup in case anything happens. And so that you have that record of your application for your own purposes. And then make sure to click Save Draft on the bottom of the application from time to time, so that way you don't lose the work that you've entered in. We don't accept applications via email, so only online applications via Submittable are accepted. You want to make sure to upload the items in the acceptable file formats, and those file formats are always listed within the application as well. And you'll want to make sure to label the audio files as follows. So with your Ensemble name, and then audio 1, and then your Ensemble name audio 2. And that just makes it easier to track your files on the back end. So that way everything's tied into your application cleanly. So a complete application, you'll have your written application. There will be a section for your project budget that's built into the application itself. You'll have that section for your audio sample. For those folks who are using guest artists as an ensemble, there would be a memorandum of understanding that you want to fill out, showing evidence that you've agreed to work together. And then the same is required of a presenter. A presenter would be required to provide an MOU with the ensemble that they're working with. And finally, the sample of marketing materials. So completing the application is really 4 steps. So preparing, uploading, clicking submit, and then you'll receive your confirmation. So preparing your attachments, making sure that you follow the labeling scheme that we request, uploading all of those required files. When you're completing the application and everything's done, you can make sure to click submit. Make sure that you only click submit when the application is completely done, because once you've clicked that submit button, the application is considered to be complete and closed. And then finally, the confirmation. CMA will send a confirmation via email. That email comes specifically from Submittable as a built-in auto response. It does have my email embedded within there, so you can reply back. We recommend that you don't reply to the auto email because your response will go back to Submittable rather than to our mailboxes. So while we can see it, it's just an extra layer of digging for us to be able to see that you sent an email if you have a question or anything of that nature. So your panel basics. The artistic project applications are reviewed by an independent panel of chamber music professionals. They're New York based. And then the CMA staff and the board don't participate in the deliberations. And on our website, you can click through a representative list of some of the past CMA panelists that have been on board. The panel incorporates 2 rounds of review. So there's a portion of recommended applicants that's advanced after each round. And that panel takes place in early December, and then the applicants will also be notified in December whether or not they've received the grant. So you'll receive an award letter or a declination letter. Regarding what that process looks like, the written application, and this is going to be an echo of the requirements for the application itself. The panel's looking at those same items. So your description of the project, your reasons for the importance of the project at this time, your expectation for the project contributing to your growth, the extent to which the project's going to increase your ability to reach your target audience or impact your target audience, and then that evidence of capacity to carry out the project and what that looks like. The audio samples, what the panel will be looking for within the audio samples is that match between what you have planned as your project, and does that match what's in the audio samples in terms of what you're able to produce and perform. And then regarding scoring, notes, and feedback, we do provide feedback. The scores and notes are provided to applicants after the notifications are made. Our panel scoring system is excellent, good/very good, and then non-competitive. And the panelists do write notes and review sheets. So that's what we use to compile the feedback that we're able to get back to the applicants who receive a declination letter. Regarding the grant award and payments, the primary contact for the grant is going to be responsible for the paperwork that's associated with the grant. So providing the proof of citizenship or permanent residency status as the primary contact, providing the proof of their New York City domicile/residence, receiving and managing the grant funds, and then filing the final report, the associated documents. They're also the point person for if you have questions with myself or the associate director of grant programs or the grant administrative assistant as you reach out to CMA. That person would be the primary contact for those communications as well. Regarding the presenter contact, very similar to the ensemble, right? They're going to provide that proof of 501c3 status for their org, provide that proof of their venue status. They'll be responsible for receiving and managing the grant funds, and then for that filing of the final report, the associated documents, and staying in contact with us if you have questions or anything of that nature. And then finally, the grant funds are awarded in two parts. So 80% of the award will be dispersed after the contract is signed and we get any follow-up materials that we need. 20% will be after the receipt of the final report. So this is important, right? As you're doing your budgeting, remembering that as a grantee that receives the application, grantees will need to budget for that 80% upfront, right? So the larger lump sum followed by the 20%, which is after the receipt of the final report. A recommendation that we have on our end is the final report copy will eventually be up on the website and you'll have access to be able to look at it. Or we can send you a sample copy. And that will allow you to, as you are just doing the various parts of the projects, sort of having a running file either on your computer or on paper, however it works for you, where you can sort of file your notes for the different parts of the project. And then when the project is done, you can basically type everything out, send us the final report, and that helps to expedite the payment process. One thing to remember is that grant funds are taxable income. Grantees must comply with all applicable city, state, and federal laws, ordinances, codes, and regulations regarding the reporting of the grant funds. Finally, you'll have access within the presentation when it's emailed to you to the grant and award recipients, the press room link, and the statement of commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then my information is located here. We do work remotely. As I mentioned, I'm located in Connecticut. And then the rest of our employees are located throughout the New York region, within New York and surrounding New York. So the easiest way to get in contact with me at this time is to email me at jfeliciano@chamber-music.org. Alternatively, the information for the Associate Director of Grant Programs will also be in the outgoing email that you'll receive, and they can be a secondary contact if you have questions and you're unable to reach me. And with that said, I'm going to stop the recording and I'll stop the share, and then we'll have some time for questions.